The game we shouldn't have played. I was 15 when it happened. It was a Friday night in late September. The kind of night where the air just starts to feel cold again. Where summer's warmth hangs on the edges, but the darkness feels heavier somehow. My parents had gone out to dinner with some family friends. They said they'd be home late. That meant I had the whole house to myself. Around 7, my neighbor and best friend, Chris, came over. He lived right across the street. We were the same age and had practically grown up together. Most nights, we'd hang out in the basement, play video games, or watch movies, until one of our parents yelled for us to stop making noise. That night, though, we were bored. We'd already played every game, flipped through every movie. Then Chris looked at me with that stupid grin and said, "Wanna play hide and seek?" At first, I laughed. What are we, 10? But the more we thought about it, the more it sounded fun, especially in the dark. We made a few rules. No going outside. No attic, no crawl space. Everything else, basement, bedrooms, closets, was fair game. We turned off all the lights except the one in the kitchen. It gave the house this eerie glow, long shadows spilling down the hallway. Chris wanted to hide first, so I stood in the living room, covered my eyes, and started counting. 1, 2, 3. I heard his footsteps rushing down the hall. Then silence. When I reached 50, I called out, "Ready or not, here I come." I started in the kitchen. Nothing there. Checked behind the basement door. Empty. The bathroom, no one. I opened the closet near the front door, but it was just coats and umbrellas. I headed upstairs. The floorboards creaked under my feet, echoing through the quiet house. Every sound felt too loud. My parents' bedroom was first, nothing under the bed or behind the dresser. Then my room, messy, sure, but not enough to hide anyone. That left the guest room at the end of the hall. The door was cracked open. I nudged it with my hand, half expecting Chris to jump out and yell. But the room was silent. I stepped inside. My heartbeat was loud in my ears. I bent down and peeked under the bed. Empty. Checked the closet. Nothing. "All right, man," I called out, "you win." I went downstairs and checked the basement last. I flicked the light on and scanned around. Behind the laundry machines, nothing. But when I moved toward the corner by the storage boxes, I finally spotted him, curled up and grinning. "Took you long enough," he laughed. We switched turns. Now it was my turn to hide. I ran upstairs, straight into the guest room, and slid under the bed. The bed skirt brushed against my face. I pulled it down to block the light. It was pitch black under there. I could hear the faint ticking of the hallway clock and the creak of the house settling. A few minutes later, Chris came upstairs. His footsteps were slow, heavy. He opened the bathroom door first, then my parents' room. I could hear him breathing when he stepped into the hallway. The footsteps stopped outside the guest room. He came in. He stood near the bed. I could hear the fabric of his jeans shift, the sound of his shoes against the carpet. My pulse pounded so hard it hurt. Then, silence. After what felt like forever, he walked out. I lay there another minute, waiting for him to call the game over, but he didn't. Finally, I crawled out from under the bed and went downstairs. He wasn't on the couch. "Game's over," I yelled. From the basement, I heard his voice. "I'm down here." "Still looking for you." My stomach twisted. "I'm not hiding anymore," I shouted back. "I'm in the kitchen." A few seconds later, he came up the stairs, breathing hard. "How'd you get up here so fast?" he asked. I frowned. "What do you mean?" He said, "I checked the guest room. I heard something moving under the bed. I swear I heard breathing." My blood ran cold. I told him I hadn't moved a muscle. He didn't believe me. We argued a little, but eventually just laughed it off. We played another round, but the whole time, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone else was in the house. Every sound, Every creak of the walls made me jump. At one point, I was counting in the living room, and I heard a soft thud upstairs. I searched the whole floor. Nothing. Chris was hiding in the laundry room. We eventually got tired and sat on the couch, turning on the TV. That's when it happened. A loud bump came from upstairs, like something heavy falling. We both froze. Chris whispered, "Was that your parents?" I shook my head. "They're not home." We waited. The house was silent. Then came another sound, the long, slow creak of footsteps in the upstairs hallway. We stared at each other. "Heard that too, right?" I asked. He nodded. For a minute, neither of us moved. Then I whispered, "We have to check." Chris shook his head fast. "No way. What if it's someone up there?" But sitting there wasn't helping. I grabbed the fireplace poker and crept toward the stairs. Chris followed close behind. Each step moaned under our weight. When we reached the top, I pointed toward the guest room. The door, the one I had left open, was now closed. We stood still. Then, from behind the door, came a faint dragging sound, like fabric sliding across carpet. Chris whispered, "We should leave." My hands trembled as I reached for the doorknob. I pushed the door open fast. The room was empty. The bed was untouched. The closet stood half open. We both laughed nervously, pretending we hadn't been scared. But then, from downstairs, came the sound of the front door opening and closing. We froze again. Chris whispered, "Someone's in the house." My heart hammered. We ducked into my room and killed the lights. I gripped the poker tight. Footsteps echoed below. Slow, steady. Then the sound of the basement door opening, and the steps began to descend. We exhaled in relief. Whoever it was had gone down there. We bolted, sprinting down the hall, down the stairs, through the kitchen, and out the back door. We didn't stop running until we reached Chris's house. His parents were home. They called the police. When officers searched my house, they found nothing. No signs of forced entry. No open doors. No footprints. Nothing missing. They said it was probably our imagination. But it wasn't. Chris heard the breathing under the bed. That was the last time I ever played hide-and-seek. Even now, years later, sometimes when I'm alone in the house at night, I'll hear faint creaks from the hallway. And every time, I think about that sound, the slow dragging noise from the guest room carpet, and wonder if whoever it was that night ever really left. We both heard the footsteps upstairs. We both heard the front door open and close. For weeks, I couldn't sleep. Every little creak made me sit up in bed. That was the last time I ever played hide-and-seek. Even now, years later, sometimes when I'm alone in the house at night, I'll hear faint creaks from the hallway. And every time, I think about that sound, the slow dragging noise from the guest room carpet, and wonder if whoever it was that night ever really left.